President Trump made huge news yesterday in a sit-down with NBC's Lester Holt. Unfortunately, from the administration's point of view, it essentially altered the narrative that the White House has been putting out about the firing of James Comey. That narrative, espoused in a number of interviews by top administration officials, was that this all revolved around Rod Rosenstein. He's the Deputy Attorney General. He'd been on the job for 2 weeks. He had written a 2-page memo on why Comey should go, much of it having to do with Comey's handling or mishandling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation. And when asked, administration people would say, the president essentially was following this recommendation. But that's not what Donald Trump told Lester Holt. He said he wanted to fire Comey all along. He said, I was going to fire Comey regardless of recommendation. And the administration has never quite confirmed whether or not the White House asked Rosenstein to do this review. So now it looks like this document that they've all been pointing to, well, the president was just, here's a Justice Department official who was confirmed with a huge bipartisan majority in the Senate. Rather than pinning it all on him, the president actually was candid. Yeah, he'd been thinking about firing Comey all along, and now he had, of course he wanted the memo because it helped justify the decision, but he was firing Comey anyway, and that is underscores the problem the White House has had here, which is from the moment this broke, the White House seemed unprepared to get its version of events out. It's kind of been drip, drip, drip to find out what actually has gone on. In that same interview, President Trump saying that Comey was a grandstander and a showboat. And that's fine. We can debate whether or not it was the right decision. In fact, the media are spending roughly 23 hours out of every day debating that very thing. Also in the interview, the president said that Comey had told him once over dinner, twice in phone calls, that he, the president, was not under investigation in the Russia probe because there was a report in the Wall Street Journal with a Comey associate quoted as saying that was farcical and that had never been said. And there's a whole secondary debate about whether it would be proper for the FBI director to tell that to the president in this circumstance. Now, Sarah Huckabee Sanders got hammered pretty hard at yesterday's briefing because she was one of the ones who had pointed to the Rosenstein memo as being the crucial event here. And here's what she said earlier. So, it's the White House's assertion that Rod Rosenstein decided on his own after being confirmed to review Comey's performance? Absolutely. But now she says, well, look, she hadn't had a chance to talk to the president. She didn't necessarily have all the details. She said nobody was in the dark. She told ABC's John Carl, you're trying to create this false narrative. Now, I've been troubled, and I've said this before, about some of the media coverage here that assumes the president is guilty of something. Some journalists and commentators now using the word cover-up, where we hear the word coup, whiff of fascism, dictator, and all of that, all of which assumes there's something here at the heart of this investigation involving Trump associates in Russia, which may not turn out to be the case. But the White House doesn't help itself when the story keeps shifting, when key facts are disputed in newspaper accounts, and it's hard for average people to figure out what's going on. Hell, it's hard for journalists who do this stuff for a living to figure out what's going on. Now, it may well be, as Sarah Huckabee Sanders said, that reporters are obsessed with this story to a much greater extent than the rest of the country. But when the President of the United States fires the FBI director under these circumstances, and the White House kind of stumbles in explaining just what happened, it's not hard to imagine why reporters continue to press this. And I think this is it's like an earthquake, and it's going to continue to have aftershocks here for some time to come.